All right, we're going to look at question number 5 from your 2.7 piecewise function homework. And so there's a few different parts that I want you to take care of first. So the very first thing I want you to do, if we're going to graph a piecewise function, you can see this is overall the piecewise function in part C, you're going to graph two things. So part A has you graph the first thing, which is the line, f of x equals x plus 1. So if I want to graph that, I know that it's in slope-intercept form. The y-intercept is 1. That means if I plug a 0 in, I get 1. So I'm going to go and plot that point first. So to draw a line, I clicked on the line function, and I'm going to go up to 0, 1, and I plotted that. So then the slope of this line, if you look at it, it has x, and there's a 1 in the front. That means the slope is 1. So it's going to go up 1 over 1. So if I go back to the point 0, 1, if I go up 1 over 1, that's where my next point will be. So there's my graph. You can also graph a couple different ways. You can actually enter a point, and we could actually draw that if you want. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. Now here's the big important thing. It's not the entire line. It's only the line when your x values are less than or equal to 0. So if I look at my picture here, and I'm going to go to a different tool, I'm going to want to cut. So look what it says. It says enter a point where you would like to cut the graph. So let me skip that for a second and think about what's happening. It only wants to look like that line when x is less than or equal to 0. So here's where my x value is 0, because this whole thing is my x-axis. So when x is 0, I'm up here at 0, 1. So that's actually where I'm going to start my cut. And it only wants the line when my x is less than 0. So if x is 0 here, x is less than 0 to the left. Left is less. And it has the equal to symbol, which means I'm actually going to include that point. So if I plug a 0 into this function, 0 plus 1 is 1. So you can see 0, 1, which I already have marked here. But to do my cut, I'm going to put 0 as my x-coordinate and then 1 as my y-coordinate. I'm going to plot that point, and then it's on the cut function. Oops. So if I go and push cut, let's see, it didn't. Let's try one more time. Oh, we need to use the eraser. I didn't finish reading that. Then use the eraser. So here's the eraser. I clicked on that. And I want to keep everything on the left. So you can kind of see it highlights which section I'm going to erase. And I want to erase this right side because that's where my x's are bigger than 0. So that's the portion of the line I need to keep. So let's check it, see that we're right. Yay, we got a little check mark. Yay. Okay, so again, you don't want the entire line. We're only looking at a piece of the line. That's why these are piecewise functions. Okay, the next thing that we want to graph, kind of scrolling down, is the negative 3x squared function. That is a parabola. And again, we're only going to want a piece of it because we see this inequality telling us it's kind of like the domain for this piece. What are the x values that we're allowed to use? So x squared, that's a quadratic. So I'm thinking about a parabola. So I know I'm going to use this function here. And so it wants me to place the vertex. Well, it's x squared, and it has a couple transformations going on. The negative is reflecting it across the x-axis, and the 3 is stretching it. But there's no left and right or up and down movement, so my vertex is going to be at 0, 0. Now it says choose how the curve opens. Is it going to open up or down? We said it reflects, so that's down. And then it wants us to place another point. Since we're being stretched by 3, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go right 1, and down 1 would be the regular function. That's the regular shape. But it's being stretched. That's 3 times as big. And if you think about it, if I put a 1 into that function, 1 squared is 1. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. So the point 1, negative 3 is on my graph. So there's my parabola. So now it wants me to do my erasing, but I have to figure out where I'm going to cut it. And it wants me to cut when x is greater than 0. So here's again where x is 0. Greater than 0 is everything to the right. So I'm going to cut off this left piece. Well, let's see where that cut is going to happen. If I plug 0 in here, that's 0 squared is 0 times negative 3 is 0. So I'm going to cut at 0, 0. 0, 0. Plot that point. Then I'm going to use the eraser, and I'm going to erase everything on the left. So I have that piece of the function. Let's check it. Oh no, try again. What did we do wrong? Oh, here we go. It said when x is greater than 0. Look, see how it's marked at 0? So we need to make sure we put the open circle right there. And again, open circles are used when we have strictly greater than. Up above on this one, we had a solid closed up circle because we had the equal to part. So let's recheck it. Success! Yay! All right. Now putting these two guys together on one graph, that's all we have to do. That's what this piecewise function looks like. So remember, we graphed the line. It's going to be up 1 over 1. We're going to cut it at 0, 1. So we're just putting these two things together. Then we're going to erase that right side. Make sure it matches. Beautiful. And we can make sure we put a point there. There we go. Then our parabola. Put a vertex, it's downward, and that third point. Again, we're going to cut it at 0, 0. Plot that point. We're going to erase that left side. And you kind of see we have to, because if we cut this side, if we cut like that, that's not a function. It doesn't pass the vertical line test. It has to still be a function. This is function notation. So let's undo that. And I'm going to erase the left side. So there we have our function. And let's check. Oops, again we did it. We forgot the open circle. I need to put that on there. And again, you need that to be open circle, because if it was closed circle top and bottom, it would still not be a function. So let's recheck. And we got it. So I kind of rushed through that with my open and closed circles, so make sure you take your time and you should have it perfectly. So good luck.